Anybody who knows anything about boxing that doesn't have this young man on the top of right at the top of the pound-for-pound list doesn't know anything about boxing, because this kid can fight. And tonight was a brilliant performance. It was a boxing clinic. Ladies and gentlemen, Mikey Garcia.
Thank you guys. Well, very quickly, I'm very grateful for the opportunities that have been given to me, and everything's going very well for me. I had a very good night tonight. We had a great camp, like I mentioned before. We had a great sparring, great training camp that allowed me to perform the way I did tonight. Adrien Broner had a tough, he's a tough fighter, he's a great champion. But I was the better fighter tonight, as we had a better game plan, and I think I showed everybody, great boxing on my end. We were active, we were dominating, we were in control, and I'm just very happy with the way things turned out for me. And I want to thank everybody for joining us and for being part of this wonderful show. Lou DeBella, Showtime, PBC, who's also part of this, and just everybody who make this whole show, come together. All the media and all the fans, all the support that we get. I'm over there from Cali, and I'm over here in Brooklyn, New York, and I get a lot of support from all you guys out here. So for that, I'm very thankful.
Hey, Mikey, straight back here.
Yes.
Congratulations on the victory. You fought this fight at 140 pounds. You're still the lightweight champion at 135. And I know you said in the ring afterwards about the prospect of you could fight at 135, you could fight at 140, you could fight at 147. But when you think about the way you felt physically at 140 pounds and the types of opponents out there that could make for another big fight for you, number one, how did you feel at 140 compared to fighting at 135? And what is the fight that you think is the big fight for you that's like actually a legitimate makeable fight?
Look, I felt really comfortable at 140 right now. We had a tough opponent in front of us with Adrien Broner, strong, big guy. I felt my power was still there. I felt my speed was there, my footwork, my reflexes. The only difference is because I am fighting bigger men, they can take a bigger punch. And that might be translated like my power doesn't carry on, but I feel strong. If there's a opportunity to come down to 35 for a good fight, I've said it, an exciting fight that interests me at 135, title unification or a good title defense, I'll do that. I'll move down to 35. If that's not available, we know boxing. I can't be waiting or sitting around chasing anybody. I'll move on with my career at 140 or possibly 147. Now you asked who's a real actual guy that we could actually land a fight with. Well, at this point, I think they gotta call us and make that happen. I'm not chasing anybody. There's guys who are with other promoters who might not be as interested in reaching out. So why even mention their names? If they really want it, they gotta call us. Cause I'm willing to work with anybody.
It does drum up some publicity if you throw a couple names out there. If there's somebody legitimately interested.
Look,
I'm happy to write about it.
Look, we can mention anybody. I mean, and if it's not gonna happen, it's just for publicity. They're serious. They can get a hold of me. They still work. With my brother, we still got fighters in different promotional companies that we can always, get the phone, running, ringing, and why not? I'm willing to work with anybody.
If I could just ask one question for your brother, Robert. Maybe you could just address your thoughts as the trainer of how you thought Mikey was physically at 140 and whether you think he could handle perhaps a move up to 147 as he mentioned as possible.
Well, he felt good. He felt strong. He controlled the fight up until the 12th round, so there was no signs of him feeling weak or getting tired. He was in great shape. Obviously it'd be we'd have to be very smart about moving up to 147, but if the right fight, the right opponent is there, there's a few that have also moved up in weight. It's not like Mikey's the only one moving up. We have a few at welterweight that are really good fighters that have been moving up in weight too. So, anything like that, we will be more than open to take.
Mikey, Nick Gilarakis, Real Talk Boxing. Earlier in the fight, Broner using a lot of movement and speed to be able to stick and move and try to circle and stay away from you. And you wind up catching him some big shots, but what adjustment do you make throughout the fight to be able to deal with his speed?
Well, earlier in the fight, I knew he was gonna be fresh, and then he was gonna be using his speed. I expected that, but I knew that with my timing, finding that range and that distance, and starting to land a few shots would slow him down. And that's what we did. We started picking up the activity, working behind the jab, and I think he must have felt some power because he started to respect a little bit, and that probably slowed him down a little bit, enough to give me that opportunity to pick up that work rate.
Mikey, Xavier Porter, BrooklynFights.com. First of all, congratulations.
Thank you.
For the sensational fight. I don't think I ever seen anybody fight this well against Adrien Broner, honestly. My question is not only just for you, but also for Lou. Mikey mentioned the fact that he's able to make 140 or continue to fight at 140. And he says there's nobody out there fighting him. But you have a guy at 140 that would particularly like to get in the ring with Mikey, Regis Prograis. So what do you think about possibly matching up Mikey against Regis?
We got to let things build. Regis is here. Look, Mikey's been in this position when he was a younger guy coming up too. You want to fight the best, and when you know how good you are, you really want to fight the best. But we'll build to that, and Regis will keep winning and do what he's got to do. And maybe I know that this man's not going to run away from a challenge. So you don't know what can happen in the future. But it was one other thing too. You're sitting here watching a guy who's dominant 35-pounder, moved up tonight to 140 to fight a guy that's been fighting at 147, dominated that guy, now talking about 47. This is like throwback stuff. This is like old-time boxing. This is what it means to be pound for pound. When you know that you're the best at 135, but you'll go up to 140 to take a challenge, and you'll sit there and talk about going up. That great respect for that. That's what it's about.